making people feel something and forget about all the troubles in their life in the world and just to focus and listen to me trying to make my sad story happy or, whatever you're writing about. It can become impure so quickly when the motive is making it. To me, I've always kind of shied away from people who have that motive because it's so rare that it actually happens. And I find that it really takes away some of the purity of the art.
When science and music collide. Hi, friends. It's Dianne here at Someone Gets Me, and I have my new friend Lindsey with me. Now, she's in Florida and I'm in North Carolina, even though I'm a big Gator fan. I'm up here for now, but I'll be in Florida tomorrow. Anyway, that's not necessarily important, but what is important is that Lindsey is both a scientist and a musician. And I think that's really an amazing thing. I met Lindsey through her husband, who is a really fascinating person. And he mentioned that she was a musician. And I said, oh my, I love musicians. And then he goes, and she's also a scientist. And I went, oh my, I love science. So I asked him to ask Lindsey to come on the show with us on Someone Gets Me and talk about the collision of these two really amazing ways of living. So get your coffee or tea, hang out with us for a while, and let's learn about what it's like living in Lindsey's skin with these two amazing qualities emerging. So, Lindsey, welcome to the Someone Gets Me show. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to be here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
This is so fun. I'm so excited to have you here. And so I'm thinking, because I do everything intuitively, the first question that I really would love to hear from you about is, did you pick science or did science pick you? How did that work like in the beginning?
Gosh, I would say science picked me because it was what I was naturally good at was the math and science.
Mhm.
Uh, so my SAT scores would certainly attest to that. I had like near perfect math and then not so amazing on the language side. So it's always been what I've excelled at in school. So, you know, of course we go to school and we have this choice in college. I went to UNC, Chapel Hill, go Tar Heels.
Yes.
I don't know what part of North Carolina you're in.
I'm in Winston-Salem.
Winston-Salem. Okay. Well, there's a little bit of competing schools there, but
It's okay.
we don't.
I'm a Gator fan through and through. The Florida
Okay.
Gators are my team. I went to school there. That's what I identify with. So you're good.
So we don't have to talk about competition with basketball because one thing I'm not that gifted at is athletics. So,
Yeah.
um, but anyway, back to the question. Science, I believe, picked me, and then I ended up saying yes to science in school, and I took on a pretty rigorous curriculum, thinking I wanted to go to pharmacy school. And then I went into organic chemistry, like everything's going perfectly. I'm 4.0, just crushing it in all my science courses. And then I get to organic chemistry and I'm like,
Oh.
yeah, this is not for me, which is organic chemistry is basically the building blocks of pharmacy. So I ended up switching to the School of Clinical Laboratory Science or applying to that specialty because I chose science and then organic chemistry basically rejected me.
Well, it was really neat that you had a way to pivot and still stay in the science related world and use all the knowledge you had. It wasn't like it was a total like kick out.
Right. I mean, the super difficult, like the analytical chemistry with the chemical equations that took 3 pages to solve. Yes, give it to me. There's a finite answer at the end, and I get it. It's math. But when it came to pulling out a model from my bag and trying to figure out bonds and write them out on paper, I could not get it. Respect to the people who do great. I was an A plus student that got a D in organic chemistry.
Wow. And that just shows how different us neurodivergent gifted people process things. Like you can be an A+ stellar person where you can do a 3-page equation and then bring out this other thing that seems related, it has the word chemistry in it, but it's divergent enough that your brain just tilted and said, oh no, I'm not doing that. That just shows how different our brains are. So were there a lot of women in the program with you, or were there mostly men? Do you remember?
It was actually female dominated.
Really?
And this program that I ended up in, it was really cool because there were only like 17 of us in the
Mhm.
class. So it was going from these huge lectures, 200 or 300 people at a time, back to the type of education that you would get where you can stop and ask questions and have as much time during a lecture or after that you needed to resolve any issues with the material.
Oh, that's
And
really cool.
yeah, it was a part of the medical school that I wasn't even familiar with. Like, I didn't even know that clinical laboratory science was a field. It's something you don't think about. Of course, medical school, nursing school, dental school, pharmacy, all this, but someone takes your blood and then it goes off to a place
Right.
where they run the test and then you get the results. And those results are what the physicians are using to diagnose and treat patients. They say 70% of the information that a physician uses to treat their patients comes from laboratory results. So it's a part of medicine that I never even thought about until a professor came to speak in my microbiology class as I was loving microbiology and miserably failing my organic chemistry.
And then your brain went, hark, hold on.
Yeah,
Here's an option I didn't even know existed. That's
right. So
cool.
all this other stuff, these other hard classes I've been taking, it's not all for nothing just because I couldn't jive with Orgo.
That's amazing. I love it how it just popped in right on time, right on
Yeah.
time. I love that. So now that I want to ask you the kind of the same question about music. Like, did you pick music or did music pick you? Like, how did that work? And then we're going to talk about how they weave together. But you're a musician and you're in a band and a rock and roll band too, which is fun. And you play a string instrument. I know a lot of people who do that,
Mhm.
and I love it. I really respect musicians. And so, how did that all happen? Like, who picked who here?
Music definitely picked me. I was just born into it. I grew up in a household where my father was a pastor and my mom was the minister of music. So we didn't have a living room. It was the music room. Actually, looking back, I wish I had taken more advantage of when you grow up in this situation, you don't realize how abnormal it is. I really feel like I should be way better of a musician than I am today because I should have taken advantage of learning from my parents who were both great musicians, especially my mother, who's just this brilliant pianist who can hear something and then just play it. So it's like God-given talent. So it's something that can't be taught. I mean, you can do some ear training, but she definitely has this natural gift. So there was a full drum set, every instrument you could think of, multiple copies of every instrument. I had access to everything, including like a Hammond B3 organ. So if you work with a lot of musicians, you probably know what that is. The big Leslie spinning amplifier speaker that just would shake the pictures sideways on the wall. So I grew up singing and playing, thinking that this was normal life.
Right. Well, it was normal for you, right?
It was.
Yeah.
And so I always sang in the choir, which is where I got my ear for harmonies. So I sing lead sometimes, but my favorite thing is to sing background vocals. I love adding the little extra vocals, the background, the harmonies, and learning how, when working with someone, like blending with their voice. And it's just one of my favorite things about being a musician is singing with other people and how cool it is to hear two different kinds of voices with different sounds, different timbres or vibratos come together and sound great together, like a guitar and a mandolin or a guitar and a banjo.
Right. Oh, that's amazing. And as I was thinking when you were saying that about background vocals, how if you listen to any really good musicians, and you take out the background vocals they have in their band, it sounds totally different. The background vocals really add that depth and nuance. And like you said,
Hmm.
it's the blending and the harmonies that take the song and the lyrics and the music to another level, I think.
Yes.
And that's really cool. And so I think that's really amazing too. So how do you balance being a musician in a band and being a mom and doing all of the responsibilities that you have? Because you're not doing science now, right? So
Right.
how do you balance your life? Like there's a lot of people listen to this show who are parents and who have these dreams and really want to go after things that are important to them, and they're afraid maybe or hesitant or maybe feel stuck like they can't. So what do you do to make it all work?
Well, I have to say, I did take 2.5 to 3 years off completely from music. The only time I picked up my guitar was to play to my son and play lullabies. And he loved to strum around on my guitar. Uh, I don't think that was 100% necessary. It was just the timing of how my last involvement with a band ended and just kind of giving 100% of myself to motherhood for a time and waiting for the right opportunity to come about. It's not that I wasn't available or that, I didn't have this space in my life for it. It just, I was waiting for the right thing. And it's so wild. John is so supportive of my music. I mean, he met me in the full-time music era where I was just every now and then working a PRN shift at the hospital. So as long as he's known me and as long as we've been married, I've been a musician. And so there was a time that he looked at me and he said, music is a part of you, and I think you really need to get back out there. And so I hesitated at first and thought, I don't know, I'm just a mom now. Maybe I'm done with all that, and I'm happy to just play songs for my son David and you. And then he kept kind of encouraging me. And so finally, I hit up a girlfriend, and she came over and we played, and we booked a gig. And I was like, hey, that felt really good. I feel like myself again.
Right.
I haven't played like that in so long for other people. And part of it, but part of my joy for my love of playing music is making people feel something and forget about all the troubles in their life in the world and just to focus and listen to me trying to make my sad story happy or, whatever you're writing about. Just cover songs that mean something to me. My friend that owns a another little venue had an open jam, and she says, please come out. I'd love to hear you sing some songs. And to make a long story short, because I went out and played that jam, I ended up getting connected with the other guitarist in this string band that I'm with now, who just so happened to be playing with one of my very good friends that plays the fiddle in this band. And I knew each other, but he didn't know that I was available for playing. He didn't think that I was back out there and that I was just being at home, being a mom and focused on that because that's what I've been telling people when asked. And it all just kind of came together. But I would say support from my partner was the spark that reignited the desire to get back out there. And how we make it work is, we schedule a band practice once a week or something like that. I have a standing gig once a week on Thursdays. And John knows that that is his night with David. And I think that if I didn't have his support, it would be a lot more difficult.
Mhm.
But it's working out really well for us. And my number one priority, of course, is my son. If anything happened where he was sick, I would 100% let that gig go. And I think the important piece or the important part of my situation now is that my bandmates know that my top priority is my family and the band is something I also love, but that they come first. And being in a situation where those guys support that and understand is an important part of making it all work.
Sure it is. And it's like you have your priorities straight. So therefore your boundaries are clear. And like your
Hmm.
rules of engagement is what I call it. They're clear. This is what I will do, and this is how I will do it. And these are the situations under which things will be different. And when we do that and we have boundaries that are clear, then our lives function a whole lot better in general. And that's what I hear you describing. And I think that's beautiful that you're respected not only by your husband, but by your bandmates, and by other people in your life that don't have that are a little further away because they're obviously you're not married to them, but they still have an understanding and an appreciation for what's most valuable and important to you.
Right.
I think that's great. So where do you see all your creativity kind of unfolding into? Do you see any cool thing happening, or do you have any albums coming out? Do you have something special you want to talk about that like lights your fire?
I've had all this music kind of in the works that I had an iteration of these songs with my previous band, the rock and roll band that was like female fronted, that I ended up stepping away from when I got pregnant, where the boundaries were not as solid and the support for my family focus was not as strong. So there's this music that I had to make a really hard decision to take with me when I left that band because I loved playing those songs with those people, but they were important songs to me, my story and the things that I've overcome in my life and very personal to me. And so I brought those songs with me when I left the band. And now I'm playing those same songs with my new string band. And it really feels like the way that they were supposed to be played anyway. So I say that to say I have some original songs that I just haven't put out. And now that I am in this situation, we are talking about, okay, let's schedule some studio time. We have three different songwriters in the group that are all going to come together and bring songs. And then we add to each other's songs in a really cool way. So we are talking about putting an album together, and joining this band is very new, although I've known all these guys a long time. But the magic is there. We are having a lot of fun. And to me, I don't enjoy doing music if I have to. I enjoy doing music because I want to, and it's something that I need to get out and I need to participate in. And this is a really cool um, outlet for that because we're all in the same mindset about it. It can become impure so quickly when the motive is making it in
Yes.
music or
Yes.
achieving some sort of fame. Does that make sense?
Yes. You're making
Um,
total sense to me.
so to me, I've always kind of shied away from people who have that motive because it's so rare that it actually happens, and I find that it really takes away some of the purity of the art. So I'm very excited to have found some like-minded individuals in which to make these original songs that I've been holding on to. Some of them are very old that I've just never put out. And I'm excited to be aligned with these people to put out this music in the way that it feels the most pure and the most reaching its highest potential artistically and creatively and
That,
with no other motive in mind.
right. There's no undisclosed motive that is tainting the output. So, does your discipline that you used in your science education ever play a role in your music?
So the discipline definitely does play into the music. So I'm often given an assignment of a new song to learn, and until I play it over and over, or hear it 100 times, and sing it 100 times, I'm not going to be truly comfortable and competent performing it. So I will play and sing it until it just however long it takes until I feel good about it. Uh, although it's different than the discipline required in the medical field, it definitely does play in, like just my work ethic in general for achieving um, the end goal, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Oh, that you're making perfect sense. You're making perfect sense. So, being that you're balancing all these amazing things between your family and your creativity and everything, what kinds of things do you personally do for your own self-care? Like, how do you take care of Lindsey?
Well, I recently, this is so silly, but this is just the truth. I recently got this, you know how Florida is like the outdoor living space is important.
Oh,
So
yes.
we have this screened in area, this screened in porch, and I recently got this hammock chair.
I want to get one of
Tell
those.
you what, I didn't know I needed it until it was there. And I love, after I get the baby down, I love to sit in that chair and just swing and relax. That's one of my things lately. It's just if I have just like an hour to myself, I might be listening to a song that I'm trying to learn for the band, or might be jotting down some ideas or paying bills online. Who knows? Like you might be doing some work, but it is like a completely relaxing space.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, uh, I love the sauna and I love the gym. So walking with David, even going for a walk with him in the stroller is self-care for me. And yeah, getting a good workout in and something about sweating in the sauna. I love it. A lot of times John has a lunch break
Mhm.
right around the time that David is napping, so he can still be working while he's watching the monitor.
Mhm.
And the gym is 2 minutes away, so if he wakes up unexpectedly early, I can be home quickly. So it works out great that I can run over and get my self-care in on a lunch hour.
Yeah, I love that kind of balance, and that
Hmm.
attentiveness. Again, that's a boundary thing, right? I really like how you are able to do that. And when you're speaking, and I had this image in my head, it's kind of like this beautiful flow that, of course, has rocks in it. Every once in a while, it could get turbulent, of course, but there is a flow that threads through all of this, and I think that that's really neat. So, my next question is, what is the most memorable food that you've ever eaten?
Well, I don't know specifically what exactly it was, but I know that the place. So I was in Seoul, Korea with my grandparents, and I was only 10 years old. and we went somewhere that had this just sprawling buffet of all kinds of Korean dishes, and I couldn't tell you what was what, but we just had samples of all kinds of different foods I've never tasted before, and it was memorable because it was so different. And I've always been a very adventurous when it comes to eating. Like, sure, I'll try it. It doesn't scare me. Uh, I really like food from all over the world. So being somewhere like that with all these different spices and dishes that I'd never tasted before, even as a kid, I loved it.
And most 10-year-olds would not think that was a great idea. And I'm
I
sitting here
know.
listening to you going, man, that sounds really fun.
Yeah, and like, I love rice. Rice is one of my favorite foods, just rice with everything. So I was like right at home.
Oh,
Uh,
that's perfect. That's
just
perfect.
the seaweed wraps and the rice, and then just all kind. I mean, gosh, I'd love to go back there and know exactly what I was eating, but some amazing dishes.
Oh, yes. I love that. Especially when you're in the country, it's not just saying it's that, it is that. It's their local food, local to the
Hmm.
region, to me makes it all wonderful.
That and probably a Wagyu ribeye at a steakhouse in Las Vegas.
There you go. See, all different choices. So the final question of the show is this. If there was going to be a billboard up that you were going to put up, like the whole world was going to see Lindsey's message that maybe comes through your music, what would that message be?
Turn pain into purpose. Uh, I guess if there is a something else also that I wanted to mention to make it feel complete, it's that, you know, music, I chose music or I'm choosing music right now, but in so many ways, my music, my songs choose me because I'm the type of writer that the songs just, I never sit down and write a song. The songs write themselves. They come out at really weird times. Like so many times I pulled out a piece of paper in the middle of the night in the lab when things were slow and just jotted something down because it popped in my head. A lot of times it's half asleep, half awake
Mhm.
that something comes to mind. And I think subconsciously things come up that need to get expressed that we're maybe pushing down when we're fully awake. So a lot of times I have these ideas for songs and wake up and pull out my phone or a notepad and write down. So I'm the type of writer that it's not usually the happy stuff that I write about. It's the hard things that I have to reconcile within myself, and it helps me to turn something difficult and painful into something beautiful that I can like. It's almost like you can tie a bow on it and sit back and look at it and say,
Mhm.
okay, I can appreciate that for what it was now because look what I'm, look what it morphed into. Look what it is now. It's actually this really rad song,
Right, right.
and I love singing it. And if I hadn't had that experience, I wouldn't have this art. So that. I think that's the biggest
I love that. You know what I was just,
one-liner.
what I was, that is a perfect one liner. And you know what I was just thinking while you were, here we go, my ADHD self is going along. But here's what I was just thinking about. You said earlier that in that doctors use, I think you said 70% of their diagnostic things in treating patients is from the lab work, right? And I'm like, okay, well, so you're using music to heal. And so at least 70 or 80% of your musical songwriting process is what you're using to quote treat or heal old pain in you that's turning it into something beautiful.
Oh, I love that. 100%. Or that's
Right?
100%
Does that make
correct.
sense? Does that make
But
sense?
yeah,
It's like I just
it
thought of that
does.
while you were talking. I'm like, there is another place where the collision is. It's not necessarily conscious, but I can see that. I can see how both of those things are true. And to get to the solution, the healing, or whatever word we want to use, there is this pain of some kind. Because most of the time
Hmm.
people are having labs done because they're not feeling good, or they're just having them done, just because they need them.
Right.
Here, you've experienced stuff that was painful that then you transformed into something beautiful, and ideas popped in your head at different times, but you went with it. You let yourself say yes to the inspired ideas and continue the journey to write the music, because you could have said no. You could have not
Right.
written it and held on to the pain, but instead you allowed the healing to come through.
Right.
It was so beautiful.
And vulnerability, like it takes some vulnerability to put these words out there. And actually what I've found is it's so rewarding when I share these songs with people and then someone comes to me and says, I love that song. I felt that way.
Mhm.
I felt that way and I didn't know how to say it. And then just thank you, because it just helps knowing that someone else has ever felt
Yes.
that way. And I think there's a lot of pressure. I guess there's always been, but there's a lot of pressure, it feels like today, to present the perfect version of yourself. And I've always been one to be like very open with people and wanting deeper connection than surface level. And I can present myself in that way, with music in a way that, you might not conversationally
Right. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. I am really
or
glad.
on social media, which is such a huge part of
Right.
our lives now.
Right. I'm glad I asked you that question, because that is really, really great. So, is there anything else you wanted to say before we sign off? And everybody, if you're listening to Lindsey and you're loving what she's saying, in the show notes, you'll find more information about her and how to follow her, and her information that she would like to share with you about her band or whatever. And of course, she's going to keep us updated when the songs all get recorded.
There's been a lot of self-doubt along the way, a lot of barriers that I put on myself, that could have potentially stopped me from jumping into these situations, which is, it's a vulnerable thing. It's a scary thing to get up on stage. And I wrote this song and to sing and play. And uh, I think that as soon as I stopped taking myself so seriously, not to say that I'm not serious about creating a good art or creating good music, not that I don't take my craft seriously, but when I stopped worrying so much about what other people thought, then I found the most freedom
Mm.
and the most real ability to connect with people on stage and to really write in a way that resonated with people, if that makes sense.
Oh, you're making perfect sense. It's beautiful. And I thank you so much for being on the show and inspiring all of us. I know I'm totally inspired. I have goosebumps. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I could talk to you forever, but I'm also want to pay attention to honoring your time and everything. So I want everybody to know that you can follow Lindsey on social media, and she's going to tell us, I'm sure she is, when the recording happens. And as we know, that time is always organic. And so when that does happen, though, I will be sure to let everybody know. So thank you, Lindsey, for being on the show. Thank you for sharing so freely and being such a wonderful and powerful guest. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Diane. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, everybody, remember to keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you are a rock star. You are here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine. And remember to turn that pain within you into something that's beautiful by using your creativity. Until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne and Lindsey saying, be well.